Please welcome SingleStore Senior Solutions Engineer, Ritika Bharati.
Well, thanks everyone. I know it's late, so we'll keep this one short, but I'm so glad to have had the opportunity to come here today and talk with some of you and really understand what interests you about SingleStore. Why are you excited about the product? And also, how do you want to push the frontiers of data to the next level in the era of AI? So what we're going to do today is we're going to do that with industrials. I know that a lot of you are probably not familiar with what that term means. And when I started my career, I wasn't either. I started off as a solutions architect at AWS, and I was thrust into this vertical of industrials without really knowing what that means. And I thought, what a drag. Put me on the Disney account. Let's have some fun. I don't want to do this. But I stuck it through. And one of the things I realized is that we are all inextricably linked to industrials, right? I took a train to get to SingleStore Now today. That IoT data from the train is part of the larger transportation system of the MTA. This HVAC system in this room is working hard to make sure it complies with New York State building code, and also making sure that we don't freeze to death or sweat to death. If you go to a hospital, there's a lot of IoT packets being sent to a mainframe room so that doctors, nurses, patients don't have to worry about those things and they can focus on what they need to. And in industrials, the problem statement is really that. How do we work with physical assets that govern the infrastructure of our lives? And how do we use data to harness the reactivity there? So when you think of industrials, there's really three things you need to think about in terms of understanding that data. First, the data needs to be accessible. Data that takes effort to reach can't be acted upon. And that goes with any industry, but more so when you have a physical asset that's not working in a system. It also needs to be understandable. These systems can get very complicated very quickly. Think of a hospital OR. Think of the MTA. Think of something super complicated with a lot of moving parts. I need to understand my data in the context of a system. If a temperature sensor is saying something, what does that mean? What does that mean in a refrigeration loop? What does that mean in an HVAC system? And that context needs to be turned into action. So I need to be able to action my data. And one thing about the industrial space, which is healthcare, IoT, supply chain, energy, that is different from what I would say finance or marketing, is that these technicians, they're not practitioners of data, right? A buildings engineer or a technician is going to look at tickets and they're going to say, okay, this compressor is broken. How do I fix it? Okay, this condenser is broken. What do I do? So we need to make sure that all three of these principles come to life. And what we're going to do is show a demo of a petrochemical plant to show you exactly that. How does SingleStore take these three principles and make them come to life through data and through AI? So in our petrochemical plant simulation, what we have is a telemetry dashboard. So as most of my colleagues mentioned earlier today, this is the bread and butter of SingleStore. We have synthetic data being generated from rigs, vessels, compressors, and it's all being put into this dashboard in real time. In the top right here, you can see the performance metrics, and you can see that not only one sensor, but a ton of sensors from each of these assets are sending data in. This can be temperature, vibration, pressure. And so what you're seeing is that streaming-friendly ingestion that harnesses the power of these native pipelines in SingleStore to actually make sure this data comes in real time. So now our data is accessible. But let's put it in context. Here we have a visual dashboard. And what I can do is I can toggle between all of these assets. And when I do so, I can look at the span of time. Now, if you're a technician, you can't just look at a graph and try to decipher what's going on. So what the team did was they used vector embeddings and also previous ticket data and harness vectors, search, OLTP, and OLAP to make sure that the anomalies are very present in this dashboard. So I can hover over anomalies and see exactly what they do. Now, you see this anomaly analysis. We're actually going to go into that as a next step. Because right now, we've accessed the data, we can understand it in context, but how can we action it? When you're a buildings technician or a civil engineer or anyone who has to action on these systems and these physical assets, you're very time sensitive. you're probably going to be judged on metrics of how quickly can I close this ticket? How many tickets can I close in a day? So we need to be able to put this in a format that's really easy to action on. So what the team did was give an anomaly analysis panel test. So what you're going to see here is a analysis of anomalies where you can add severity levels and add an AI analysis. Okay, the video is going. And basically what the team did here was create a multi-sensor pattern detection analysis, which takes multiple sensors within an asset and combines them with drift detection algorithms to actually make sure we can see what the severity of each of these anomalies are. And also what you'll see is that if you expand within an asset and you view the details of it, the team is also integrated with a GPT to actually understand what's going on. So in my petrochemical plant, I can see that there's potential overheating that's going to affect the integrity of this asset alone. So as a technician, now I don't have to go through this data and do the guesswork of, okay, the temperature is high. What does that mean in relation to another asset in the system, right? The action is right here, and you can go ahead and implement that action. And to put it all together, what happens in these systems is that we just saw anything on an entity level, right? What do I do when a rig is broken? What do I do when a vessel needs help? But if you're a supplier or you work in procurement, you need to look at things at a more high level. You need to be able to judge the health of your system and understand, hey, what kind of spend can I expect from this system? Is my petrochemical plant healthy? So what the team did is at a macro level, took that and found an impact score as well. And I've just shown you some of the benefits that SingleStore has within the industrial space. But what I can say is this. Once we've talked to customers, what they're most optimistic about is that the challenges that they've had for over a decade with these physical assets in the physical world, they're optimistic about how they can be solved. They're optimistic that, great, all my IoT sensors can have data consolidated in one place. And then I can connect that with AI and use that HTAP and AI in one place to actually action my data and make sure that even if people aren't practitioners of data, even if they don't understand how to make sure that raw data is analyzed, they have the tools that they need to action these systems so that the practitioners of these systems are equipped with the tools and knowledge that they need to actually make change in their call to action and increase that time. And with that, that's SingleStore and Industrials. Thank you.